We are recording. So welcome. Welcome everyone to the AB 617 South Sacramento Florence Steering Committee. Thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Janice Lamb Snyder. I am a program manager at the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. This is our first meeting of the year and the 23rd meeting since we started the committee. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and the link to the video will be posted on our Community Air Protection webpage after the meeting. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the co-chairs, Bill Knowlton and Patricia Shelby, for their introduction and the start of the meeting. Bill, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. And as always, thank you so much for spending the evening with us. We have had a little bit of a well-deserved break. We hope everyone is healthy and safe and your families are doing well. We are into 2021, and as the will of the committee said, we would take a small respite and then hit it hard in January. So here we are. So again, welcome and thank you very much. We're going to hear from Dr. Ayala to give us some opening remarks.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Bill, and welcome everybody. For those of you that are new, my name is Alberto Ayala. I'm the Executive Director of the Air District. And what I wanted to do is just real simply take a couple of minutes, first and foremost, to say Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for coming back. For the members that are returning, thank you for the new members that are joining us. And I want to say a special welcome to our partners from the city and the county. AB 617 is a really important program for us, and there is a lot of mutual benefit in terms of what we as an air agency can hope to bring to the community in terms of emission reduction benefits. And clearly, we need to work with you. I like Ariel's characterization in terms of everybody being comfortable. I hope that we can get, after so many meetings, into a collaboration where we are comfortable with each other, where we can help each other. We need each other to bring the promise of AB 617 to the Sacramento region. It's a new year. It's been a challenging beginning of the year, but it's also an exciting year for us because we have new elected officials in the region. Some of those new elected officials are actually now on our board of directors. And I'm already looking forward to having them help us with our mutual goals related to community air protection with AB 617. We all know that AB 617 is a state priority, and we really want to honor that and do as much as we can with your help, with your assistance, with your engagement, again, for the benefit of our community. The real power of AB 617 is not what we can do as an air district, but how can we leverage this air quality program to get other solutions? And that's the reason it's important to have the city of Sacramento and our friends from the county begin to engage with us in a more direct way. And obviously, all the members of the community, the residents and the business, they are absolutely critical. The last thing I'll say is, I also want to remind us, unfortunately, that AB 617 is going to be challenging because even though it is a state mandated program, unfortunately, the state hasn't provided the funding that is necessary to do everything that they are expecting us collectively, all of us, to do. They're only providing, about half of what is needed to really do what we think is necessary. So I'm just going to say that to put it out there so that my hope is that we can work together and advocate for our region at the state capitol, at the meeting of the state agencies when it comes to raising our voice and speaking on behalf of the residents of South Sacramento. So again, thank you for giving me the time. Again, this is just a simple welcome, a simple expression of appreciation from the staff, from our board of directors, and really looking forward to a good 2021 with you all. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Alberto.
Okay, so we will do a roll call of existing steering committee members. So Bill Knowlton is here. Patricia?
Bill, do you have the whole list?
I do not. I only have the existing list.
Let me, why don't you let me do it? I've got the whole list.
Perfect.
All right. Bill Knowlton,
Here.
Bishop Chris Baker,
Here.
Gary Johansson,
Here.
myself, I'm here. Rhonda Henderson. I don't know if Rhonda's got her sound working.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, very good. Stephanie Williams.
I'm here.
Great. Tito Hong.
Right here.
All right. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Vincent Valdez.
Here.
John Rice.
Here.
Hyun Chan.
Happy to be here.
Jesus Cervantes.
Here. How you doing?
All right. And Dolores Lawrence. She's not here tonight. We do have a quorum. We have 11 members present. We have new members. We will be coming back to you for your introductions a little bit later. Okay.
Janice, can we do a roll call for staff?
Yes, Dr. Alberto Ayala,
Here.
Mark Lautzenheiser,
Here.
Amy Roberts,
Here I am.
Jaime Limas,
Here.
Rafe Porter,
Here.
David Yang.
Here.
Jamie Arno.
Here.
Marina Franceschi.
Here.
I will also do a roll call, and I am Janice Lamb Snyder. I'm going to also do a roll call for the CARB staff, Karen Buckley,
Here. Hi, everybody.
Samar Lichtenstein.
Hi, I'm here.
Sorry for always butchering your last name, Samar. Dave Ridley. Okay. Facilitator Ariel Ambruster.
Hi, I'm here.
All right, I'm done with roll call.
Great. Okay. And now we're moving on to the agenda, correct?
Yes, go ahead, Ariel.
Great. So just quickly, we have a lot queued up today. We'll be spending about 30 minutes introducing the new steering committee members, or a little bit less than that, but they'll each have some time to introduce themselves. And then we'll have a very high level program recap just to help frame where we're at for the new folks and administrative items. Then we also have representatives from the city of Sacramento and county of Sacramento here today. So we'll be introducing them. We'll hear district updates. And then under community updates, we have an update from United Latinos. So that will be that piece. And then we'll have a major block of time on the charter amendments review to sort of highlight some of the major changes that the charter subgroup is proposing. And then we will get into new business, which is an opportunity to propose new items for future agendas, future meetings, and then talk about the next meeting. And then last, we'll have the general public comment period to hear from members of the public any items they'd like to discuss that haven't been on the agenda till that time. And hopefully get you out at 8 p.m. on time then. And then just very quickly, I'll review the code of conduct as it stands now. There's some changes in the proposed charter, but this is what we have at this point, that all members of the steering committee agree to respect time and communicate openly and directly so that we can understand what your issues are. Please be courteous and listen to each other, listen to the public speakers, be respectful of different points of view. The extent that you can participate fully, that allows us to understand the perspective that you're coming from and the interests of the people you're representing. So their interests are at the table. We suggest that people be flexible and open to change and new ideas so you can all learn from each other and brainstorm new and creative ways of addressing air issues, monitoring and emissions issues. To stay on task so we can get through our agenda for the day in a focused way. And we suggest if you assume positive intentions of others, that really helps create a good environment for you all to work with each other. Also being solution focused, seeing opportunities, challenges, and possibilities, and strive for consensus, look for ways to find common ground to move forward. And lastly, we asked that you all make decisions based on what's best for children and family in the community and not on personal agendas. And just a note, I'll be keeping notes of action items today, and any items that you all raise that aren't on the agenda, we'll put them in the parking lot for future consideration. And then with that, I turn it over to David Yang.
Thank you, Ariel. My name is David Yang. I'm with the Air District. I'm just going to go over some logistics. So we have staff available to help with any technology issue. Yeah, you can call me directly at 916-874-4847, or you can also message the host or co-host in the message box if you're having technical difficulties. For steering committee discussion on the agenda, the chairs will announce the format of that discussion. If it's round robin, the chairs will call upon members to participate in that discussion item. If after the roll call, if you have additional comments or questions, then go ahead and raise your virtual hand. The other agenda items are that are not round robin format. We ask that you raise your virtual hand. For the public comment period, those that are interested in speaking, please raise your virtual hand. To raise your virtual hand on the computer, click the participation icon at the bottom of the screen. A panel with a list of participants will show up. At the bottom of the panel, click the raise hand button. You'll see a hand next to your name indicating that your hand is raised. If you're calling from the phone, press *9 and you'll get a message that your hand is raised and wait to be called upon. When called upon, please unmute yourself. On the computer, click on the microphone icon on the lower left of the app. If you're called from a phone, you'll have to press *6. If you're using both computer and telephone, you may have to unmute both computer and telephone. You can also email me comments. That's email at dyang@airquality.org during the public comment period, and I'll read out the comments to the committee. That concludes my logistic information. I'll pass it back to the chairs.
Thank you, David. We have 3 new board members to introduce, committee members to introduce. We are very, very pleased to have you with us. So I would like to introduce first Hien Chan. Hien, could you give us a biography and why you're interested in this committee?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Hien Chan. I live and work in Elk Grove. I've been an educator. I've been a high school counselor for 13 years now. I'm also a parent of 3 children, 2 of which attend school in Elk Grove Unified. We're having fun in distance learning and working from home. But part of when I saw the opportunity to participate in the steering committee in our local community, I saw an opportunity to engage not only myself, but potentially engage students in being active in their community to affect climate change. And in affecting climate change, we start with air pollution and how we might do our part to educate others, but also make small and large changes to reduce emissions. But I'm also learning terminology from what Pat and Bill and Janice and Karen and Mark shared in our orientation to reduce the burden in our community and ensure that people have a high quality of health in our community and even larger state of California and beyond, and hopefully be an exemplary example of what good can come when people come together collaboratively. And I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Mr. John Rice.
Good evening. I'm John Rice. I'm administrator for Methodist Hospital. I oversee all their operations and facilities for the hospital for Bruceville Road, as well as our MOBs in Elk Grove. And I'm also overseeing the new construction of our new hospital in Elk Grove. So excited to be here. Outside of work, I am the president of Capital Christian High School's youth program, and I'm also one of the high school coaches for the varsity team and coach many other sports in Elk Grove. I'm returning back to Sacramento from the Bay Area. I was in Bay Area for the last 10, 15 years from college, and then overseeing the hospitals for Kaiser and other hospitals in Southern California. So I'm excited to be here, provide my expertise through the hospital lens, and also as a coach and a parent that also has children in Elk Grove.
Thank you, John, and as well, thank you for your service to our community. Mr. Jesus Cervantes.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Jesus Cervantes. I live and work in South Sacramento. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I just retired from Sacramento County Mental Health, although I have a small private practice here in South Sacramento as well. Well, my goal is to try to be of help for this committee. As you can see, I'm very interested in improving the quality of life of people who live in South Sacramento. And when I hear about the steering committee, I thought that it was very interesting to see how this affects the well-being of the people living in our area. So I hope that with my expertise, I can kind of support you guys and try to kind of, like I said before, improve the quality of life of people here, because the work that you do is very, very important. So I'm very excited, and I really want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be part of this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes, for your service as well. So again, to all three of you, thank you so much for your commitment and your time. There's so many different ways that we can be of service, and this is one of them, and this is an important one, as Ian said. So again, thank you so much. Pat, are you going to lead the recap discussion?
First, before we do that, let's go ahead and give the new members a chance to meet all of us who've already been here. And so, Bill, I'll start with you. I'll do a little roll call, and you introduce yourself, and we'll go down the line. Okay.
All right. Again, my name is Bill Knowlton. I co-chair this committee with Pat Shelby. I am the executive director of the Mac Road Partnership, which is a property and business improvement district. We also have a small nonprofit that we work with, really with youth in our district and in the Valley High area. High-risk youth, and so this part of the service, as far as the air pollution goes, we have a lot of kids, as Pat has said many times, and really looking for their future. So thank you.
Bishop Chris Baker, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, and glad to have all three. I'm Bishop Chris Baker, been in the community for about 29 years, and I do a lot in the community, such as looking for new businesses and et cetera. We'll be here all night if I give you my resume, but it's great to have you and looking forward to working with you.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Gary Johansson, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Gary Johansson. I'm the president of the North Laguna Creek Neighborhood Association. And I've lived in Sacramento all my life. My family's been here in the photography business since the 30s. And I'm the founder of South Sacramento in the 70s on Facebook. So I know a lot about South Sacramento, and glad to be here.
All right. Rhonda Henderson, if you will, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Guess I'm gonna show my video, huh? Hold on.
Did you make it back from dinner?
I'm still smacking.
We're interrupting.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me or not.
There you go.
Rhonda Henderson, and I am.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Yeah, something happened with your mic just a second. Okay, try that again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Very barely.
You hear me now?
Yes.
It's better? Okay. All right, I'm Rhonda Henderson, and I'm the president of North Laguna Creek Valley High Community Association. And I live in the area. I live in North Laguna Creek. And I became a part of the group because I live in the area and I also represent others that live in the area. And we want to help any way we can to help us have a better quality air that we need. And we want it to be healthy. And because I guess this area has been deemed one of the high areas for poor air quality. And I have lived in Sacramento all my life, mostly South Sacramento. So, and I'm glad to have the new members. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. Stephanie Williams, if you'll introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good evening. Welcome aboard to all of our new members. So glad to have you participating with us. My name is Stephanie Williams, and I am a resident of South Sacramento. I've been in the community, in the South Sacramento community since sometime in the 70s, I'll just say it that way, that I've been here. And I joined this board because of the amount of time that I've been here in the community. Definitely want to see not only my family, but also the rest of the families that are here have the best air quality and the best quality of life as possible. And so that's my purpose for being here. Thank you, and welcome again.
Tito Hung.
Tito, you're on mute.
I was gonna do some sign language, but okay, you can get right here. Hey, just first thing first, I miss you guys. It's been way too long. Welcome to the new team members. I'm Tito Huang, president of the Vietnamese American community of Sacramento, also the Little Saigon community that I helped start 2010. Obviously, COVID has been tough for all of us with the shutdown of our restaurants and our salons. And it's nice to be able to get some perspective and insight to you all, how our community is doing. I'm hoping to add some value to this community as well. And it's been a wild ride for the last year and a half, and I continue to look forward to a good 2021 with everyone, new and old members.
Thank you, Tito. Vincent Valdez.
Hello, my name is Vincent Valdez. I'm a lifelong Sacramento resident. Most of that time spent living in South Sacramento. I'm a member of the United Latinos and chair of the Environmental Justice Committee. We are really interested in building healthy communities and working with the Air District and CARB in getting good quality monitors in our community and getting some good information that we can work from. And welcome to everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to the new members.
Thank you. Welcome.
Pat Shelby.
Yes.
You introduce yourself, please.
Okay. All right. I'm Pat Shelby, and I'm so very glad that, and I had the great fortune of meeting all of the new members during your onboarding sessions. I'm quite excited that you are here. I am a mother of 5, grandmother of 9, former County of Sacramento employee, former Elk Grove Unified School District employee, and had to take an early retirement because of my severe asthma. So at that point, I thought, you know, I don't know how much time I have left, and this needs to be better because all of my children have asthma. and something needs to change. So that's when this came along. This is now almost two years ago. December 11th we started. In 2018 was our first meeting. This opportunity to be able to serve the community was something I couldn't resist. So I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad to see all my fellow members back. Glad to see everyone. I know some of us have had some health struggles during this time, business struggles and others. So welcome one and all. I'm glad you're all back, and I'm glad to be back at work with you. Okay. I think it's me, right, Bill?
It is you.
Okay. We're just going to do a quick overview. So the next slide, I think. The steering committee, just a brief recap of where we've been, where we don't want to go again, where we want, and where we want to go in the future. All right, this has been, and I had shared with everyone, I had shared with the new members that we had taken a break. We worked really hard, and then when COVID hit and all the work, we really kind of took a break, a pause. So just a little brief recap. We started December 11th, 2018. And most of us really didn't know what we were getting into. When we started, a fire hose opened, and we started just trying to take in as much information as possible. During that time, we finalized our boundaries. We developed a list of our air quality concerns from residents' points of view, resident and businesses locally. We finalized our objectives and our actions and developed maps for potential areas that we thought might have high priority in March of 2019. And I'm really going to be skipping, June of 2019, June 25th, the same day my grandson was born, we had a community bus tour and looked at different parts of the community, some of which we were quite familiar with, other parts we were not. We look forward to doing a bus tour again, and perhaps have to do that virtually to really introduce yourselves to the community. It's something that I would suggest to the new members to kind of take a look and drive through the mapped area. From September of 2019 through January of 2020, we really were into the draft monitoring of the elements 1 through 14 in preparation of our community air monitoring plan. We got our first phase monitors started and purchased and deployed our second phase monitors in October of, started to do that. Got hung up on a few purchasing and delays that happened. In April of 2020, we were finally able to get our draft overview of our camp. And
Pat, camp being the community air monitoring plan.
Monitoring plan, camp, and which we finally did adopt our final version in July. But during that same time in April, we took up and named Vincent Valdez the chair of our technical advisory group, and started to solicit people that would be interested in helping us with technical information outside of the Air District, other resources. We approved a list in August of last year, and are doing our final developments of our MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding with those. And finally, in September of last year, just before our break, we revisited our charter, and in that discussion, we also agreed to begin the pre-SERP community emissions reduction program groundwork and revisit having the SERP designation in mid 2021. So that's kind of a quick overview of where we've come from, and good work that we did. And now what's left is getting that data, getting some community outreach back to those communities as part of our camp, and moving into our pre-SERP work. So does anyone want to add anything about where we've been, where we've come from? Okay, I guess I did a pretty good job. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So we have our meeting notes from September in your packet that was sent out. We would entertain a motion to accept those meeting notes.
Vote to approve it.
We have a motion from Bishop Baker. Do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a second from Stephanie Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any abstentions for absences? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Pat,
Yes.
did you want to go through the survey results?
Yes, I do. Have the slide. One of the last things that we did, we sent out a survey amongst members looking at what are some of the things that we wanted to have information or priority for at the beginning of this year. Number one, as I had mentioned before, that community outreach was of top importance. Our community profile, that's part of the pre-SERP, and we'll get more into that when we start to go through Appendix C, building that profile, who we are, what exists, what are the actual problems beyond just the numbers for our air quality, but building that profile of who we are. Establishing some pre-SERP work groups, because the jobs are not going to be able to be done completely in this meeting, but being able to hand things off to small work groups or subcommittees to get things done. We also need to do our final amendment charter. We will have a presentation about that today, and our final vote will come next month. Discussion of the air quality data and the emissions, really starting to do a deep dive and what we're getting from our phase 1 and phase 2 monitors. We also had talked about making sure that we added that new business feature, but talking about making sure that we're getting back to you as, I'm talking about for Bill and I and the district, making sure that we're getting back to the board about developing the future meeting agendas and items as well. With the urban heat development, urban heat presentation that another portion of the Air District does. We express interest in that. Incentive-based strategies, catching up with what else is going on with the Air District as far as incentives. We had a request to get a report back on the stationary source permitting and the compliance, and how that is connected to urban use and planning. And for that reason, we're glad we'll come to them a little bit later in the agenda, but we have some new partners who are here from the city and the county to help us as well. So that's just a little bit of our survey, and those are kind of ranking in the order that we kind of prioritize them, but a lot of those are also equal. So anyway, that's where we left off from our October survey that we sent out.
And I might just note too that one thing with the new members coming in, since we've spent a lot of time together talking about these things, we may be talking in ways that are code words to you. And I'd say, you know, even a lot of us who've been on here a long time, this stuff can get pretty unclear sometimes. So we want to encourage you all to let us know if we're not talking English, plain English to you all, because you know, some of these things like stationary sources are, you know, your big polluting sites, and the urban heat island. I'm actually not even that familiar with that, but I think that's related to how we generate a lot of heat because there's a lot of pavement in the area. And, you know, so feel free to let us know. You can put something in chat if you have a question, or you can raise your hand and ask for the new members in particular, but for the old members as well. If something is just not clear, we always want to make it clear.
Thank you, Ariel. So now we have Mark for some introductions. Mark.
Thank you. And I'm going to be very brief here, but I just want to introduce a couple of the members, and they have additional staff present as well. So I'll let them go into more detail on everyone who they have here. But one of the things we heard very clearly from the committee as we were wrapping up the camp, and now as we're looking at this pre-SERP activity and looking at local solutions, was a recognition from both ourselves and the committee members that we really need some additional partners to help us understand, especially land use decisions, planning decisions that are not directly within the purview of the air district. And so I'm happy to say we've been able to make contact with with the city of Sacramento, the county of Sacramento, and city of Elk Grove, because we actually have all three jurisdictions come together within our community here in the South Sacramento, Florin area. The city of Elk Grove could not join us tonight. They have another board meeting, I believe, tomorrow night. So they were busy wrapping up stuff for that board meeting. They will join us hopefully in February to give a quick introduction. But we do have Remy with the city of Sacramento is going to talk a little bit, just some quick introductions, a little bit of what's going on for the city of Sacramento. And then we're going to have Todd Smith with the county of Sacramento and his respective team, with the idea that tonight's going to be sort of like a very high level, more of an introduction from them, what they're able to bring in the way of information, with a recognition then that this committee may have some specific questions or may want full presentations from them, not just a quick 15 minutes. You might want to spend a portion of a future or multiple future meetings just hearing more about their activities and or how that can all integrate with some of the work we're already doing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Remy with the city of Sacramento for a moment. And then when Remy wraps up, I'll introduce Todd Smith with the county.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. As Mark said, I'm Remy Mendoza, and I'm also joined with Marcus Adams as well. Maybe after I introduce myself, then we can give him an opportunity as well. So I've been with the city of Sacramento for 15 years. I live here in Sacramento. I'm a father of a couple of kiddos in elementary school, so having a lot of fun going through this virtual education experience. And this is the third general plan update that I've been fortunate to work on as part of our long range planning division. In long range planning, we deal a lot with policy and change and long-term plans, such as the city's master plan, what we call our general plan, and a climate action and adaptation plan. And currently we are in the process of updating both documents, which is makes it very exciting. It's something that we only do once every 5 or 10 years. And the opportunity is really ripe to address some of the most pressing issues that are facing our community, issues around equity and sustainability. And so we're looking to embed a lens and those principles in these long-range planning documents of our general plan and our climate action and adaptation plan. Could I have the next slide, please? So I'd like to take a minute, just a brief moment to share with you where we are in the process of updating the general plan and the climate action plan. The project has 4 phases over 3 years. It started in February 2019, and we anticipate that it will conclude in December of 2021. This timeline here shows 4 different colors representing the 4 phases. In phase 1 and 2, we did a significant amount of outreach with the community through community town hall forums, virtual workshops, working with youth at high schools. We completed a scientific survey, and we got a lot of community input in order to identify the main issues and opportunities that we could address through our general plan and our climate action plan. And we also worked really closely and participated in the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change, which became the foundational document for the development of our climate action plan. We just wrapped up phase 2 last week, actually, phase 2 of the project, which concluded with a city council meeting and our city council giving us direction to move forward with 10 key strategies in the land use map and actually build out the full 3-inch ring binder, 300-page document that consists of the general plan and the climate action plan. And so those documents are going to be coming forward in the summer of 2021, the summer of this year, and then for adoption in December. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, what are these key strategies that are in our general plan? So they include some really bold, big changes for the city of Sacramento, including allowing a greater array of housing types in existing single unit neighborhoods. So the existing single family zone, we would allow, in addition to single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. And we would also be looking at facilitating mixed use development along our commercial corridors, and then going electric. All low-rise new development would be electric by 2023, and then all new development would be all electric by 2026. We're also looking at developing goals and policies to support zero-emission vehicles, as well as increasing the amount of tree canopy in our underserved communities. We're looking at developing an equity framework and how we prioritize and invest in infrastructure for our disadvantaged communities. Exploring the possibility of an annexation for the Fruit Ridge Florence Study Area, as well as where we can do road diets. So we can prioritize walking, biking, and transit over the single occupant automobile, and then possibly eliminating city mandated parking minimums in order to reduce our reliance on so much parking as part of the development calculation. We will also be developing a new environmental justice element with goals and policies around safe and sanitary housing, food access, improving air quality, and prioritizing public facilities in our underserved communities. Next slide, please. In preparing our land use map for the new general plan, our approach, we looked at several factors, including how can we address some of the impacts of historic redlining. We know that even though Sacramento is a diverse community, we're a somewhat segregated community. Our most affluent neighborhoods, our most expensive neighborhoods that have some of the wonderful amenities, parks, and good schools are not accessible to everybody in the city. And so that's something that we want to try to address. We also looked at how we can create, by creating a greater array of housing types, also streamlining our general plan and removing the barriers to housing production, and then supporting implementation of the climate action and adaptation plan. Next slide, please. So this new land use map that council gave their blessing on last week will be a simpler, more user-friendly, flexible land use map. Rather than having 27 different land use designations, we're simply going to have 10. This will make it more predictable for development, for the community, for staff, in order to process new development applications and incentivize housing. We're also moving away from density. Rather than regulating development based on how many units in a building, we'll be looking at the form of that development and the bulk of that development, so that it's consistent with the development in the neighborhood, but at the same time allowing a greater array of housing types such as duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes within those neighborhoods. So this is the big, bold vision that we're moving forward with as part of our general plan, our climate action adaptation plan. Last slide. And so with that, that kind of concludes that overview. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, as I mentioned, Marcus Adams is also here with the City of Sacramento.
Thank you, Remy. I know that we'll be asking for a little bit more detail in a future presentation, but this is a very nice overview of where we are. And you're saying you're anticipating completing this entire general plan update at the end of this year, 2021?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and obviously, whatever we can do to help with the steering committee, we're happy to. And we think, a lot of this work dovetails nicely with the work that we'll be doing on the environmental justice element as well. So there's a lot of good synergies here.
So we certainly know that land use is something that has to take into consideration, and where transportation corridors, tree canopies, and other things to mitigate for heat, for pollutants. Is that all being combined into this plan as well?
Some of it is at the general plan. It does operate kind of at a higher level, but it does provide guidance for some of the implementation documents that will come forward or be updated, such as the urban forest master plan or a design guidelines, or working with public works on their streetscape design standards and whatnot. So the general plan is kind of the starting point for providing that type of guidance. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And it could address all of those aspects. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much.
Sure.
Looks like Rhonda has a question.
Yes, I do. So if this plan will start to merge multifamily housing units into single family neighborhoods, it sounds like it could potentially eliminate single family neighborhoods or make people have to move out farther to be in a single family housing area.
We've heard that argument. Currently, under our existing regulations, you can already build a second or third accessory dwelling unit. And if you could guess how many got built in the entire 100 square miles of the city of Sacramento, well, you don't have to guess. I'll tell you, last year we just had 77 total that were done. Building, it's expensive. It's not necessarily cheap. The single family homes are, they're very valued. They go for a lot, how expensive they are. Folks are going to want to keep their single family homes. We anticipate that the majority of the neighborhoods are really mostly they're not going to remain unchanged. People love, having a front yard and a backyard, but we do want to create opportunities wherever we can. How can we create more housing for teachers, for for folks that are looking for housing in the missing middle, right? I mean, this creates an opportunity to allow for low-cost housing in very affluent neighborhoods. So we don't anticipate that this would in any way eliminate single-family housing, but in fact, just create opportunities for duplexes, triplexes, which already exist in these neighborhoods. And prior to redlining and some of those CC&R provisions actually were very prevalent throughout the city of Sacramento, in most of downtown, the central city, and some of the other neighborhoods as well.
So Remy, I think, folks are very interested in what you're putting out here. And so we may want to really work to find focused ways for this group to get its interest into those areas of what you're doing where it'll have the most impact. But I see that Jesus wanted to see if he could ask a question, and Vincent as well. And so remember, this is an introductory piece, and I think you folks will be at the next meeting as well, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. And we'd be happy to do a deeper dive on any aspect of the general plan, the climate action plan, and also share out opportunities where folks can weigh in more formally as well, whether we have a planning commission meeting, a city council meeting, environmental justice group workshop, or whatnot. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and we certainly welcome, ground truthing the components of the general plan and getting expert input as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so maybe if we just can quickly hear what Jesus and Vincent's interest areas are, or I'm looking to the chairs. How would you want to handle this? I just know we could get a really juicy discussion going and go on for a long time.
Let's skip those two because we still have another speaker and we have a guest speaker coming at 7. So
yeah,
let's go forward. Go ahead with Vincent and Jesus was first, I think.
Yes, Jesus and then Vincent, and if we can, keep it focused, that would be great.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. A very quick question. For this general plan, are you guys contemplating to include something about how the air quality, improving the air quality of this project is gonna be affecting the mental health of the individuals that live in the South Sacramento area? I mean,
That is, yeah, right. We have actually conducted a study by Dr. Jesus Hernandez that I think is going to help inform the general plan with that specific aspect. And I think our environmental justice element, right, which was the legislature, named it the Planning for Healthy Community Act, SB 1000, is something that we have to address. And so I do believe that there will be information around that topic. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a lot of information about air quality affecting the mental health and the well-being of the individuals.
Right, and that's the overall goal for a long-term plan, right? Over 20 years, we want to see these underserved areas, disadvantaged communities, not have such disproportionately compounded burdens on them that are affecting the health of the communities, and try to reverse that.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Ariel, you are on mute.
I was muted. Vincent, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I'll be really specific. I have several questions, but my number one, and if you don't have the answer, maybe next meeting you can bring it. Are there any specific electric charging stations proposed within our steering committee boundaries? Thank you.
I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but I can follow up with Jennifer Venema, who is leading that effort for the city, and be able to get more information from you. I'd be happy to share that out next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment then to introduce Todd, or I'm sorry, real quick.
There's also Marcus Adams.
Right, I was just going to say, Marcus, if you'd like to just quickly introduce yourself. I know you and Remy work together on this, so you can just give the introduction.
Sure, thank you. Happy to be here. I'm Marcus Adams. I'm the senior planner for the South Sacramento geographic area. So I work in current planning. So basically what my goal is to implement the policies that Remy and his group do in long range planning. But I'm more on the day-to-day levels. So I work closely with the air district and with different projects, whether it's a new grocery store or gas station. What I try to do then is implement measures that what you guys are working on. So things that can help on the day-to-day level, help on air quality issues, whether it be tree canopies or some of those other measures that maybe aren't in the general plan, but a lot of times we can get some of the developers to implement those things into those components into their projects. So I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to learning and listening. And once again, I'll just leave it at that. So for the sake of time.
Thank you so much, Marcus. And so as I introduced Todd with the County of Sacramento to share, introduce himself and share what they have going on as well. I just want to reiterate that our hope is with these partners that we'll be able to have them attending regularly, or certainly as this committee may have questions and figuring out how it can help interact with our efforts and just your interest in this in general, because we know this has been a strong question coming from the committee and how it can help our process. So Todd, if you'd like to go and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Todd Smith, Sacramento County Office of Planning and Environmental Review. That's a mouthful. I'm a principal planner in our long-range planning and master plans group. We do a lot of the same type of work that Remy spoke about in terms of general plan updates, including the environmental justice element and the climate action plan. Fortunately for me, we are not in the middle of a general plan update, but we are working on preparing a community-wide climate action plan for the unincorporated portion of Sacramento County. And when I say unincorporated, I mean all the areas that are not included in cities. So that's one of our major work programs right now. The other big piece that we're working on is implementation of county's environmental justice element. Just like Remy mentioned, this is the county's portion of the general plan that was required via SB 1000 a few years back. So we're in our first year of implementation of the environmental justice element, and the South Sacramento community is one of 4 environmental justice communities in the unincorporated county. And it's really, from my perspective, really important for us to participate, us being the county, participate in this effort, because we specifically identified the Air District's AB 617 process in our environmental justice element to ensure that any outcomes that came through this process, if there's anything that needed to be incorporated either into the county's general plan or into those more detailed documents that I think Marcus was referring to, things like the zoning code or design guidelines or other ordinances that the county has, if there's a way to incorporate some of the ideas from the community into those land use planning and guiding documents, then we can do that. I also want to highlight one thing that we specifically put in our environmental justice element related to climate action planning. And that was a policy that says any new programs that are developed as part of the climate action plan will prioritize investments in the county's environmental justice communities. And that really speaks to what's necessary in terms of investment in those communities based on what we already know are the disproportionate impacts of climate change in those communities. So when it comes to things like, Vincent, your question about EV chargers, or I think somebody else earlier on mentioned the urban heat island effect and additional tree plantings that can be done to mitigate that. That's what we want to hear from the community about in terms of where those chargers could be located, where the community desires additional tree plantings. Those sorts of things are really helpful for us as we try to develop these plans and actually go into long-term implementation, which is the harder part. And I'll pause. I'll stop there because I think you all have another speaker coming up momentarily. And I'll drop in the chat a couple of links to the county's EJ element and the climate action plan webpage for folks to subscribe to our email lists on those topics.
Thank you very much, Todd. And yes, in future, certainly we are going to want a presentation with the EJ plans from both the city and the county with that too. So thank you so much for making those links. Okay, Mark.
Great, thank you. I had to just find my unmute button. So Janice, you want to go ahead and just advance the slides real quick? So very quickly here in terms of just some of the district updates, just some very quick high level so we can, and then we'll have time as well for another guest speaker coming in. Just want to mention that we do have several new board members coming on to the Air District Board. So this is our formal board that is made up of our elected officials. That does include, and I'm going to apologize in advance to her, even though she's not on the line because I'm still working on the right pronunciation, but either Mai or May Vang, the city council member, whose portion of the district does include parts of South Sacramento Flooring community, is going to be serving on our board. Also for our Elk Grove members, we do have a City of Elk Grove is represented on our board, and the Mayor Bobby Singh Allen is also on our board as well. In addition, then we still have all of our 5 county board of supervisors. So this region, this community is very well represented on our board. Very high level in terms of the state budget update. The initial governor's proposal is proposing to continue funding for one more year at least. We keep hoping that the state budget will get to a more permanent long-term funding for the 617 efforts. But we at least are optimistic that the starting position has been that the governor has included it in his initial proposal at a status quo level. Obviously, the good news is it means we have funding, especially with everything that's been going on with COVID and the pandemic and just the state fiscal matters. It could have been much different. The flip side of the status quo is the state does continue to add additional communities statewide. So it's the same pie, and we, as our director, Dr. Ayala, mentioned at the very beginning, it just does try making sure that we're continuing to get the resources we need to better serve our community here in the South Sacramento, Florence area. That also then ties back in with our discussion, just to sort of touch upon this right now. You will see when we get to the charter amendments, we did add in, the stipend policy. As you may recall, when we first started talking about the stipends back last summer, we did already commit to doing them through 2020. Obviously, we're now into 2021. So we have not established that funding yet to be doing that for 2021, but it is our intention to be identifying that as we move here forward in the next few months. So I just wanted to sort of throw that out there as well. And with that, though, I'm going to pause. I'm going to turn it over to Janice on giving an air monitoring update, and then she will be followed by Jaime on Clean Cars for All. And if there are questions, we'll take a minute or two at the end of the district update so we can sort of go back and cover all 4 of these points.
Okay, before Janice, our guest speaker has arrived, so he will follow you, your program, district updates, okay?
Perfect, thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
So just a really quick update on the air monitoring data. So we're collecting a lot of, all the phase 1s have been up for a while now. All of the phase 2 sites have been established and is collecting data. So we're starting to get that data in, and then we're combing through it right now. We are hoping to have some information, some preliminary analysis of what the data is looking like at the next meeting. So, so stay tuned for that. In addition, I wanted to mention a grant that the Air District received. It is called the EPA Toxics Grant. And if you can all recall, in our air monitoring plan, we had phase 2 monitoring for 6 months. And I know that a lot of the steering committee members, really wanted, more extended monitoring. And so this grant that we have received from EPA will allow us to extend those monitorings for phase 2 from 6 months to an additional 6 months of monitoring. So that's some good news to be able to, have some of that detailed information for a full year. And so we'll be having that information, also as part of our analysis as well, when we wrap up everything. With that, that's all I had for an air monitoring update, and I'll pass it over to Jaime for the Clean Cars for All.
Great, thanks, Janice. Hi, good evening, steering committee members, and Happy New Year's to all of you. Welcome to the new steering committee members, some new faces. And so my name is Jaime Lemos, and I'm the Transportation and Climate Change Division Manager at the Sacramento Air District. And I wanted to provide just a small update on our Clean Cars for All program. We've been given some updates here and there to the steering committee, and so I think right now we're right in the middle of the program, and everything is going smoothly. So here we go. First off is once I give this small update, I'm going to start posting in the chat some of the websites. That way, if you have any questions, you can go there. We have an extensive Q&A list there as well. So the Clean Cars for All program was launched back in August 19th, 2020, and we started off with a budget of about $5 million. Since then, we've grown the program another $4 million, so for a total of about $9 million. So that's a lot of funds to put a lot of vehicles out on the road. So far, we've processed over 1,000 interested participants that were first on the interest list back when it was first created, when we put out our press release back in August of 2019. So let's get down to some of the main points here. The main eligibility requirements. You have to live in Sacramento County. This includes the cities of Sacramento, Citrus Heights, Elk Grove, Folsom, Galt, Ileton, and Rancho Cordova. You have to be at least 18 years of age. You have to have a valid California's driver's license. You have to own and drive a 15-year-old or older vehicle and will be willing to scrap that vehicle. So you have to surrender that vehicle. And you have to meet the income eligibility requirements based on the most current federal poverty levels, the FPL standards. And there's a lot of question on income levels and do I meet it? Do I not meet it? And so we tell everybody, take the eligibility quiz because that has the latest information with all the tables and income data. Thank you, Ray, for putting it on the chat. And this is what the program offers. There's two funding approaches. If you surrender your vehicle, you could receive up to $9,500 towards a new or used all-electric, battery electric, plug-in hybrid, or fuel cell vehicle, and up to $2,000 in charging infrastructure. So that's one option. The other option is receive up to $7,500 towards a mobility option for electric bike purchases, public transportation, which include regional transit, light rail, jump bike, gig, car share, and many of the transportation options that are in and around Sacramento County. That program, we are hoping to fully deploy that in June of 2021. So we're not there yet for the second option, but we're almost there. And so we'll go ahead and put that, well, Rafe already put that information already on the chat, and I can take a couple questions now, I think, if Janice says so.
So I think we may be running a little bit late. So chairs, how would you like to handle this?
I think we have to move forward, but if you will please make a note of that and send that information out to all of the steering committee that was shared in the chat as well from the presenters tonight, so we can follow up with those. And I thank you very much, Jaime.
Sure, you're welcome. And yes, we'll follow up with Janice. We'll send something out. And again, please go to the website. There's a ton of frequently asked questions there already, and the eligibility quiz. Many of your questions will be answered there. And if not, you guys know how to get a hold of me as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
All right, Pat, are you going to introduce our next guest?
We have a speaker from United Latinos here this evening. I'm not sure if it's going to be Herman or Julio. Who's here?
Herman, you're on mute.
It'll be myself.
Okay, Herman. Herman from United Latinos, I thank you so much. They are doing another community. We're going to have these community updates and want to make sure that we stay in frequent contact with other community members who are trying to get better air quality, better quality of life, and better health for the residents of South Sacramento. And Herman, I thank you so very much. You can give us a brief introduction. We have 3 new members with us tonight. I'm not sure that you were here when that started. Just to let us know where you're from and what your mission is.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you everybody for having us here today. My name is Herman Barahona. I'm the lead community organizer with United Latinos. We're a local community organizing network that is based out of Sacramento County, Yolo County, and Placer County. With me today is Julio Gonzalez, who's the vice president of our executive board. And Julio, if you can wave to the crowd. I can't tell where you are because I have the slideshow in front of me. But if it's okay to ask with your monitor, could I have sharing abilities here? I just want to share a slide. I want to show something as part of my presentation. I'll be very brief.
Marina, would you be able to make Herman a co-host?
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay, great. So just to give you some background, United Latinos started as a civic engagement organization about 10 years ago. The last 2 years, we looked for funding to work on some concerns we had around health issues that our Latino community was facing in South Sacramento. Many of the hospitals and clinics in the local community were telling us that one of the major issues affecting Latinos is asthma, heart disease, and other respiratory illnesses. As a result of that, we began doing some homework around environmental justice. And this has been quite an education process for us, and we're still learning. And I think we're not even scratching the surface at this point. But what our group has been able to do is put together a number of partners throughout the county, funders like the Catholic Diocese of Sacramento, the California Endowment, Next Gen Policy, and other folks like that, like the Sierra Health Foundation, to develop more awareness in the Latino community about environmental justice issues that are in the community. And this is the kind of literacy effort that requires a lot of patience and a lot of work with grassroots communities so they can begin to understand terms like what is PM 2.5, right? What is PM 10? Those are the kinds of things that we're doing as an education campaign in the county. In the middle of that, we decided to focus and learn a little bit more about air quality monitoring. So there's a specific boundary we're focusing in. It's not within the AB 617 boundaries. We are working in the northern end of your boundaries. We're working from, if you look Sutterville Road on the north, all the way to almost to Mac Road on the south, and where the airport is on the west, all the way to the east on Powern Road. And in that corridor, we're going to install our independent air quality monitors that will be installed by community leaders. They will be monitored and the data will be gathered by them and sent to a laboratory for analysis. Let me show you a quick picture of one of our best friends that we just, I guess, can you see that? It's gonna be an independently run monitor. And the canister you see at the top, that's what's pretty much what we're gonna be gathering the cassettes to send samples over to a laboratory to be able to understand what are the elements or compounds within PM 2.5 in those specific neighborhoods. What we hope to get out of that, while we're not an air monitoring or regulatory agency, what we hope to get out of that is develop the kind of knowledge to educate our community for the long term. So our local institutional leaders gathered enough knowledge about how to follow up with these issues of air quality for the long haul in South Sacramento and other parts of the county. Another effort that we're starting, and this part of this conversation, of course, is submitting all kinds of policy recommendations to the city and the county through the different working groups that are out there. Some of them are led by Jackie Cole, some of them are led by the Sacramento Mayor's Commission on Climate Change. We were part of their equity committee. So a lot of this work is really focused around education, but also to really, as some people have called it, air neighborhood watch, right? Where we'll be able to actually learn for ourselves what's really happening in the air and how do we learn and engage more people about it. We're gonna be placing this mobile monitors throughout the county, but we're gonna start in South Sacramento in 2021. We have some really good experts coming in to help us from Sacramento State University, from the California Resources Board. There are a lot of folks that we're looking to learn more about this effort. And this is gonna give us the kind of evidence that's gonna help teach people understand what climate change looks like for local folks who have historically been redlined in these areas. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them right now.
Herman, I just want to say, this is Pat. I wanted to say thank you once again for coming, letting us know. These efforts are not about being competitive. These efforts are really working to build all the collaborative partnerships, because we have a community that is overburdened. And your focus is very clear. You are also simultaneously, there have been advocacy training for people that United Latinos has been working on, so that they are leaving talent in the community. When Herman moves on and goes to the next portion of his life, that there's still people in this community, because this information has been embedded there. It's not just a hit or miss, but it's been embedded. The other piece is they are taking on and dealing with heat source and heat islands. So you guys just were doing a tree planting education, I think, recently with the Sacramento Tree Foundation.
Yes.
And lots of dynamic things like that. So Herman, we consider, Bill and I have been working to make sure that we know how we can support Herman, how Herman can support us, because the effort is about how we can improve the quality of life for all of the residents of South Sacramento. So Herman, I just want to thank you once again for bringing that to, and look forward to future updates.
Thank you for having us, Pat. Thank you, everybody, members of the board and AQMD. We look forward to the collaboration, and you're right, there's a lot of work to do, so the collaboration is going to be important. And I also want to thank Vincent Valdez, who,
Yes.
just for the record, he's the one that started environmental justice work in the United Latinos way before I came here. So there was already a seed that was planted by his effort, and it's bearing fruit. A lot of the church leaders that he's introduced us to in the diocese were the ones that began figuring out a way to fund this effort, because literacy is the #1 part of this effort in order for people to really understand these invisible things that are poisoning them. So yes, it's a very important process. So thank you very much, and we look forward to more collaboration in the future. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you, and thank you so much, Herman.
Thank you.
Okay, where does that leave us? I know we're getting.
That leaves us to the charter subgroup.
Okay, well.
That would be you, Madame.
That's Miss Stephanie, and I'll let you kick it off. We also have a few slides. This is going to be just a brief overview. We're not going to dig deep into this. Stephanie, myself, Bishop Baker will be making calls out to the committee members following up, because following this meeting, you will also be getting your hard copy delivered to your homes, so that you can really be able to go through. So we're just highlighting areas that we want you to pay special attention to, and that have been major expansions or inclusions into the board. Stephanie, I'll let you take it now.
Do you guys see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Okay.
That's at the table of contents.
Okay. I have a little weird red dot, so.
I see it. Yeah.
I see the red dot.
Okay. I've never seen it before.
A laser.
It's not just you.
Yeah. It's not your imagination. We do see it. Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of highlights of the charter update. And so as you all know, you received via email this information and had an opportunity to review. And so starting with Article 3, There was some changes to the membership size. We changed the size of the committee members to 15. There was also an update in and around the composition of the committee membership, and we also did some work on the term limits that were established. And so, not sure how many of you had an opportunity to review the document prior, but that's where we started. Also, there was another change for the clerk committee. We previously did not have that designated, and so we do now have an email address so that you can reach out to the clerk if you are going to not be present, or if you have some questions or something that you need to move forward, then that's the contact information for our committee clerk. Next, there were also some changes in our meetings. And I think we're going to have a little bit more, we might have a little bit of an introduction in and around this Brown Act, the elements. They're not formally, we're not formally being governed by the Brown Act. And so I think we're going to have just a little bit of a presentation from tonight, just a little bit to kind of give us a little bit more information there. Also, there were some discussions and some updates on attendance, the leave of absence requests, and motions to reconsider. We laid out that whole entire process, and that is part of the. I think that came initially from a conversation with that Vincent had brought up. And so we went back and did some work there. And so that process is laid out as well. And then also there's an attachment in and around the stipend policy. So I'm going to pass this back to Pat, and then she can take it on here from subcommittees.
Okay, just to follow up on the issue of the Brown Act as well, to bring more specifically to bring our new members, we went back and forth. Were we under the Brown Act? Did we not fall under the Brown Act? What did we do in getting clarification? CARB and the executive committee that are representative groups from leaders from all of the AB 617 communities typically get together somewhere, and Trish can correct me, or somewhere maybe quarterly, have a meeting. And there were issues and asked for clarification about that. So we have, and I'm sorry, I thought we would have the highlighted piece so that you knew what page it was on. But
Brown Act section, that's on page 9.
Okay, of our, yeah. So as we go through.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up right now, Pat.
Okay.
And Pat, just because I think I facilitate that meeting, if Trish wants to join in, I think they decided that it was up to each local steering committee whether they wanted to be governed by the Brown Act or not, right?
Mark, maybe you want to speak a little bit about the discussion with our attorney.
That would be great.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't want to take away too much time. I mean, I will take as much time as this group would like, but I also don't want to take away too much time from the other great edits that the subgroup has worked on. Basically, what came out of is Brown Act is still a local legal decision. Our attorney had originally erred more on the side that we were subject just because that is the most protective, if you will. But as there's been additional guidance and insight through the state process and just listening to other attorneys and other guidance on it, it was cited we're not formally under the Brown Act, but what we have done is all those elements that are about transparency, posting of meetings, making sure that it's available here to the public. Those are all still, your subgroup has still incorporated those different pieces. And we have those pieces even in the original charter, but we've tried to be even more clear on those areas. What's not in here then are those pieces that would restrict it. Meaning, like, if you're formally under the Brown Act, if 3 of you even just got together for coffee, you all of a sudden need to start like declaring that you're having a, there's all sorts of implications that come into it. So as you look through the different charter updates, it goes into, the pieces here that still talk about us declaring the meeting. How do you go about the public discussion? How do we go ahead and post all our meeting notes? And in the case right now is Zoom, the recordings. Those are the elements that are still now incorporated in here. The subgroup, not specifically as part of the Brown Act, but they got more specific than in terms of what a subcommittee would look like and how that is formed. So those elements that come from the Brown Act are still exist here. It just hopefully gives you all of the positives without all the bureaucratic restrictions that can come into the Brown Act. So that's sort of a very short version. Vincent, I see your hand up, but I'll defer over to Ariel and the chairs for calling because I only don't know if there's other hands up.
You have a question, Vincent?
Yeah, go ahead.
Vincent?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So as I read this article, and it was confusing because, I think we can take, just like you said, we can take from the Brown Act what we want, but we're not under the Brown Act.
Correct.
Is what I read. And
Correct.
So I don't know why we have to mention so much about the Brown Act if we're not under it. We could just take what we want from there and just include that into our
but
Article 5, I guess.
Yeah, the issue was just to make it clear that we aren't, but that we are referencing some of the framework and why we're trying to do it to ensure that we're bringing some levels of transparency.
And so maybe there's way to plain language
Well,
that a little bit
for
more.
The record, I'd like to see all the Brown Act. Just for the record, I'd like to see all the Brown Act information removed from this and then just state what we're using and that's it. Because if we're not using the Brown Act, it doesn't need to be in there.
All
My
right,
opinion.
I hear you. Okay.
Thank you.
In section 5.51, Janice, are you able to go to that section?
We are.
Another a piece is about the participation. It goes into, oh, that's too big. Yeah. It just goes into detail about it. We want to make sure that you are there at the meetings. Each one of the meetings, your input and participation is important. But if you need to take a leave of absence because of something, that point 1 has been added so that you know. And once again, that is letting the co-leads and the clerk know that you are doing that. And we're looking at a cumulative amount of 3 months so that you're not missing so much time away that you're not able to really continue with your duties and need to consider stepping away. Okay. But that was new and that was a change. That's why it's highlighted. 5.10, 5.10, please. There's a whole section here on motion to reconsider. How we will do that, please read that section over. We will be calling through once again to have that. But if we take a vote and then there's a request to change that vote, how will that be happen? How will it be recorded? What will it take to achieve that? Okay, basically asking to take a reverse action from an action that we've taken. All right. And then we have the stipend, but the stipend's is the detail about the stipend is also in attachment E. Mark already talked about it, so I won't do that. Article 6, subcommittees. That 6.1, basically in that clarification that the subcommittees and work groups are advisory in nature. These subcommittees and work groups are established by a majority vote of the committee, and all subcommittees and work groups can be dissolved at any time by the majority vote of the committee. So that, because we're going to have groups after the charter group is done, our work is done, that is going to be dissolved, and we're on to other business as well. Okay. Article 7, codes of conduct. We had a lot of discussion, and we went through and once again, just refreshing, we went through all of the groups charters that existed in the state. I think there were 13 of those.
Yeah.
We looked at the city, we looked at Elk Grove, we looked at a lot of things and tried to take just those highlights and do that. So please read through those. I don't think that there's anything that folks are going to disagree. We just broke it out clearly. All right, but that's a new section. So we need to let you know that revision. Article 8, we really are talking about the attachments, okay? What has changed? And I'm trying to go through this because we are behind time.
Mhm.
The California Air Resources Board, along with the executive committee I told you about before, had made some recommendations, and we tried to incorporate some of those into this document so that it could live and breathe and move forward with us. And one of those is going through the decision-making process, okay? The decision-making process, we'll come back to that with a little bit more detail because we're gonna ask Ariel to talk about a workshop we've asked her to do about helping build that, but that is an attachment D. We also, in 8.2, we talked about, we will look at this charter at minimum annually to look if there are any revisions. If not, then we can adopt it and continue on. If there are minor revisions, we'll have a small group. Otherwise, we will have to, as we did this time, have a major committee go through, do the revisions, bring them back for revisions. But hopefully we won't need to do that in any short term. If we can go ahead and go down into 9, looking at the attachments. This is very different, and you're going to want to go through this. Our attachment A, the application and selection process. That is the new process that we looked at, how we will advertise, how we will seek new members. To go with that, we gave direction to the staff to try to incorporate as many elements of this as they went out to do the new recruitment before this item was final for our new members. So welcome new members. You are partly under that. A participant agreement. All of us will do a new participant agreement and update it, but participant agreement, once again, identifying, what's your status? Are you a resident? Are you a business owner? How are you affiliated? Blah, blah, blah with this. And then one of the other recommendations from CARB and the executive committee was a conflict of interest statement. That has not been an issue for us specifically yet, but in planning for the future, we had some of the AB 617 committees struggle because they had industry members as voting board members.
As residents.
They weren't
on the steering committee, right?
They weren't identified as industry members. They had come on board as residents,
right,
and did not disclose their conflict of interests. And it caused a lot of anger and anguish. And so we looked at the draft conflict of interest statement that was prepared, and it goes through and does some explanation about it. And so we've incorporated that as well. because there a conflict of interest exists does not mean that you cannot participate. It simply means, hey, the cards are on the table. We know. You've told us, I've got a business interest. This is affecting me, you know, directly in the pocket by the decisions we're making, or not, those types of things, okay? And then the new stipend policy. And once again, we know that that stipend, which was new for us last year, was addressed as budgets come out, and what is the ability to deal with that. But also that is also tied to attendance. So you want to look at that policy, because if you, for instance, and this was a recommendation from one of the groups in Southern California who has a lot of community membership, who said, listen, tell people that they're going to get qualified for that stipend, but they have to be there within the first, we know people have to travel, get back and forth to work, but they have to get to the meeting within the first half hour of the meeting. They can't leave a meeting before the last half hour of the meeting. Otherwise, somebody's dropping in for 15 minutes so they can get their stipend, and then they're out. So that's part of also what's included in the discussion about participation, okay? So those are the main things. And if we could get Ariel to touch on the decision-making tool that we've attached as attachment D, and just give us a quick, perhaps identification of what she's got coming with that.
Sure. So, you know, when we all started off, a lot of the air districts, the AB 617 blueprint said collaborative, you need to be collaborative, but there wasn't any information about that. And so what we want to do next time is just sort of step back and give you a little bit of backgrounding on collaborative skills that you all can use as you're working with each other. And then part of this particular piece is a way to make decisions to identify where people are, and if there's a big decision before you, you know, where people stand, to sort of help you find a way to come together, find something that everybody can agree on. So that'll be one of the things we'll talk about in the training next time. And I'm also going to be trying to prepare like a little booklet, because if we're going to have subgroups, so subgroup chairs can use that as like a cheat sheet to help them when they're running their subgroups and working with folks. So we'll be talking about how you can be listening to each other to hear each other's interests, and how you can brainstorm ways that work for everybody, and how to use this collaborative decision-making process.
Thank you so much, Ariel. So that's just the quick review. We do not expect you to have that final discussion now, but what you need to be paying attention to in the document that that you were receiving, and the electronic document will have the highlights in yellow so that you can know those areas, or in your program here to know what we've made major changes to. All right. That's good. Do we have any questions about that?
I just wanted to add, did we discuss that they will be coming out in hard copy as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
in case they wanted to do a markup of them or something like that of everyone.
Correct.
So to be expecting.
That should be coming out sometime this week. Probably.
Okay.
And you folks will be doing a round of calls to the steering committee members, so that you guys can have one-on-one conversations to get more background, to understand things that are, you know, and all of that, to help prepare for the next meeting. Okay.
That sounds really good. Okay. Oh boy. I'm just looking at our time. We got behind.
Your business.
We're trying to move it up. Okay.
Oh, Vincent wonders who to contact. He has an address change as far as getting that hard copy. So if somebody from staff can deal with that.
Yeah, Vincent, if you go ahead and send us the new address, we'll take care of that.
And congratulations on your move, Vincent.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, can he just type it in chat? Would that be a way of doing it?
It's probably not a good idea
Not a
to
good
Okay.
type it in chat.
Okay, you're
because
right.
this
That's
is
public.
personal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do private, but okay.
No, just
Oh, okay.
Just send us an
Okay,
email.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Okay. I just needed to mention that I've received a request from John Lane, who has sat in on many of our steering committee meetings since the beginning. John is with Tykert and asked if I would speak to CalCEMA, which is California Construction and Industrial Materials Association. And they wanted to know basically about the South Sacramento AB 617 committee and from the perspective of community member. So that event is a virtual conference on February 2nd.
Are there any other new business before we get into future agenda topics that other steering committee members may want to report? Okay.
All right, good.
All right. So I'm gonna move us forward a little bit. And we wanted to throw out some ideas and brainstorm with the steering committee on the next February agenda topics. And so there's a lot of things that we talked about with the charter that the subgroup have brought up already today. And so, one of the items was, do we want to take a vote adoption next month? In the charter, there's also discussions about co-lead elections and how we're going to do that, in the next meeting. Obviously, I skipped over my first bullet, which was an air monitoring update. I mentioned earlier in the meeting today that we're starting to get some data in. And so we're working through, combing through all of that and bringing some back to the steering committee. Ariel mentioned a little bit about the collaborative decision-making process and skill building. That's an idea at the table. And then obviously, we also shouldn't forget about the camp, right? We're in the implementation of the camp. And so within the camp, there were
Which is the
deliverables.
monitoring plan, right?
Sorry, the community air monitoring plan. There were deliverables that we had said that we were going to do, such as outreach to community and how many we were going to do with that. For that particular objective, and then
And that is specifically, Janice, that is to be letting the community know what the monitoring has found, right? What the air quality is like in the area.
What the air monitoring data, what we have found, and how to increase awareness about air quality and just air quality issues in general. And then there was also a discussion late last year about, pre-CERP process, and then what would be needed to do a pre-CERP, and are there any subgroups that the steering committee would like to form to start getting into the details of the work.
And I'm sorry, but once again, I'm going to say that's an emissions reductions. So breaking into group to start really focusing in on how you want to improve air quality.
Right.
And so I guess is the question for the group here now, what topics they'd like for the February agenda? Is that what you're framing out, Janice?
Yes, Pat and Bill.
I think there are some critical pieces. We've got to get the charter approval finalized. And so that needs to go. How to be able to come to decisions. That training seems critical as well. And Bill and I have been leading, but we want to incorporate and that is a vote that should take place annually as well. It usually would be in our first meeting of the new year in the charter, but because we had not been able to adopt the new charter, that was not possible for this meeting. But we should be looking at that in an upcoming meeting as well.
And
So-
Vincent has his hand raised.
Mhm. Vincent, turn your sound on. Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't ready, but so yeah, just so I guess you asked a question, so I'd like to answer it. I'm really interested in some air monitoring data and what it's going to be showing us. It would be nice to have sheets to look at and compare to previous months or something like that. Co-lead elections is important, and I don't know which is first, subgroups for pre-serve or pre-serve process. I'm all for the subgroups because I think we need to get it learned and informed on that, and also the subgroups for camp implementation. Do I need to put those in the chat for record?
No, I'm taking notes and we're recording the meeting, so we'll go back and make sure that's in there.
I also have I have a concern and a recommendation. I sat in on a presentation that Valley Vision had in December, and it had Healthy Air Alliance, their executive, and one of their board members. One of the board members presenting was Dan Wetzling from the American Cancer Society. They had some breakdown of data about our area that was very interesting. And I think that it can underpin some of the things, especially as we're looking to break up into subgroups. But it gave, it helped me understand a little bit better how they had pulled information from the Cal and virus screen and some of the EJ information to really look at what the burden and the what the impacts are on health across the board from toxins and pollutants. And so they went into breast cancer and lung cancer and colorectal cancers and asthma and some of the other things that have impacts. And one of the big takeaways I heard was your zip code, and studies have found, and data seems showing the burden, your zip code is more important than your genetic code for the burden of sickness that that the environment also gives us. And they admit it's complex, right? But being able to look at that, those are some of the things we've been asking about from the beginning. Asthma, the high rate of infant death and infant mortality. Why are, that 39% of African-American women with cancer, we're 39% higher than any other group. But you can also track along some of our mobile corridors and others where those numbers are high.
So you're proposing that presentation then potentially?
That's also a type of presentation that we need to do to get some of that fundamental pieces, because as we start to build a community profile, which is under Appendix C with the SERB in the SERP, some of those things that can help guide us as to what groups we want to be able to break into and make those decisions about some of the stuff, information we want to target and research more.
So, and Mark also mentions in the chat that folks were interested in hearing more about the city general plan and the climate processes from the city and county. I'm just going to note it's 7:56 right now. And so how we want to proceed to get an agenda for next meeting.
A quick question for Pat, if I may. So
Yes.
Pat, are you suggesting that we reach out and see if we can get them on the calendar for our next meeting as
Yeah,
kind of a baseline?
I think that it can be helpful. It was
Yeah,
a
agree.
15-minute presentation, but it was very insightful and helpful.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that'd be a wonderful baseline for us and a place to really start that conversation.
Just a quick one. I was just going to also say, Pat, that a presentation, but then also as this new information is becoming available, to somehow have a shared space where we can utilize this information. It also can be a resource, and that we could kind of review in our own time, because I do know that we have a set number of meetings that we've that we're going to be working with. But it does sound like great information, and whether they did a presentation or not, I would be interested in getting some of that information. And so maybe a discussion on how we utilize resources and information that we receive from our external partners.
And yes, that the way that we can utilize that information could be in a couple of ways. It could be, hey, this is a group that wants to look at health impacts, and that's a subgroup, and we want to get a presentation to them. But I still think that it's general information that all of us need to get that back to give us some foundation.
Vincent, do you have your hand up again? Or is that your old hand up again?
That's my old hand.
Okay. All right, I'll lower your hand.
All right. So right now, what I hear some agreement about is the elections, the charter approval, the training, and looking at the pre-cert process.
I also heard that there was, Vincent had brought up that he was interested in looking at the air monitoring data.
Yes.
Okay, so I have the data, I have the co-leads elections for next month. We have the charter adoption. And then I know Vincent also shared something about interested in a subgroup formation for camp implementation, but also the CERT process.
And
so
Kian
that's a
has
lot.
her hand up as well. Yeah, it is a lot. We may want to start looking at areas where there might be presentations off meeting potentially. Go ahead, Kian.
I wanted to note that I was interested in hearing more about the collaborative decision-making process, just because working in schools for a long time, we've done really self-studies. And when we have baseline kind of information to anchor us and guiding practices like consensus building, it really helps to move the writing and the pre-cert process along to start with, so that we're not going to do it partway through into the pre-cert process, which can extend the time. Just my thought on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there's a valid point there. I think we have to get some foundational stuff. Otherwise, we're gonna be running around biting our tails, and that won't be good, because we'll have to come back to it at some point.
I have a question. The air monitoring update, to me, seems to be the very foundation on how to go forward.
And Vincent mentioned that in chat as well right now.
Right. No, I was agreeing with Vincent. So I think that that data really early on in the year, I mean, it's going to be February already in our next meeting, having that data, I think, is important. And again, I like Pat's idea of a presentation and a way to get that information that we can sift through, you know, at our, you know, as Stephanie said. So, you know, I just think that air monitoring update, if we have it, you know, that's what we've looked for. And I think that having that now is just a positive development.
And potentially there's an action item for Pat to reach out to the American Cancer Society individual and just sort of see where his availability is to help you all with your planning.
Pat, would you do that?
Yes, yes, I will.
Thank you. Okay.
So see if there's any public comment. Are we ready for that? Are we?
Yes, quickly, because
Okay.
we're
Yeah,
over time.
we're there. All right, so if there's any member of the public who would like to give some general public comment or comment on anything today, you will dial *9 if you happen to be on the phone, or you will click on participants at the bottom of your screen, and there is a blue hand and you click the blue hand. If all of that is just too complex for you, you can unmute yourself and say, I'd like to get in the queue.
Looks like having none.
Ah, just Mark.
Well, mine's actually not a comment, obviously. It looks like the raise hand feature may have moved in an update to Zoom. So just in case anyone from the public, it's now under the reactions button, not under the participants button. So I just wanted to, so if in case anyone was trying to raise their hand from the public and was going to the participant list, there's now on the bottom right, there's a reactions, and their raise hand is the bottom bar.
Interesting, thank you, because some of us are not able to see that. That's helpful. Okay. I'm still not seeing any raised hands, so it looks like.
We are, Bill, or you want to entertain a motion?
The chairs would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do we have a motion? Was that Bishop?
Yes.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
A
second.
We have a second as well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, I'm sure. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And again, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work, you guys.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Great
Thank you,
meeting. I
everyone.
really enjoy it.
Thank you, great meeting.
Thank you.
Be safe,
Thank you,
everyone.
Bill.
All
Drive
right.
safe out there.
You
All right.
too.
Bye.